Okay, all right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are going to get a presentation from the Shah Center for Engineering Career Development on how to hire an engineering co-op student. Everything you need to know about the process. This is something that I know is a very, very valuable resource for our local family businesses. And today we have Kaylin DeCant, Associate Director of the Shah Center, specifically, I believe, working with computer science and engineering students, and Jessica Napier, also Associate Director for the Shah Center for Engineering Development, specifically working with mechanical engineering students. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, let you give your presentation, and then there will be some time at the end for questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us. As Angie said, I am Jessica. I'll be mainly driving the presentation, but Kaylin will hop in as needed. So this is just an overview of who we are in the Shaw Center for Engineering Career Development. Angie Gorney is our director, and she works with computer science engineering technology, electrical engineering technology, information technology. You can see we all work with at least a couple different majors. So we have Rhonda Moore, who's an associate director, Jeff Humphreys, associate director, Kaylin and I are assistant directors. And we have Michelle Dembski, who is an event coordinator who does a lot of the hard legwork on our great events that we have in the Shaw Center. So just an overview of our co-op program. We are one of 8 schools in the US with a mandatory co-op program. It is built into our curriculum, which is really great for students. I'll show you a sample plan of study in a couple slides here. We have a minimum of 3 semesters of co-op experience. So all students who graduate with an engineering science major will complete 3 co-op rotations. So 3 semesters of full-time work out in the industry. This helps, we help prepare students for co-op rotations during a professional development class. So all of us in the Shaw Center co-teach a career development or professional development course within the major that helps prepare students for co-op. So resumes, LinkedIn, interview tips, skills that they need for co-op. So that's something that they have to complete before they go out on their co-op. We assist employers in engaging with students. We help host activities, events, and company site visits. And we network with employers throughout the country. So we definitely have our group of close companies that we work with that are local, but we have a wide net of companies throughout the country also that we work closely with. In 2018, we celebrated 20 years and 20,000 placements in our co-op program. So our co-op program is well established, and I like to think of it as a well-oiled machine. And we like to branch out and do new things. And we have great experiences with our students out in the industry. There are some requirements for students for their co-op. We try to be as flexible as possible. So like I said, we have those companies that we have established relationships with that kind of have a more concrete co-op program on their end of things, but we also will work with companies who don't have one established and helping them create those guidelines. Really, the main requirements we have on our end is that we need to make sure students are, the majority of their job description is engineering focused, that they're working with engineers, professional engineers, that they're doing full-time hours. So just as, a full-time employee would. And we like to get an evaluation from their supervisors at the end of the semester to make sure that the co-op student was doing everything that they needed to be doing and working in an engineering capacity. So this is an example of our co-op plans. So students are either on plan A or plan B. So basically either a spring start or a summer start, and then they alternate coursework and co-op semesters from there. You'll see that we have 4 co-op semesters built into the plan. Some students use all 4 and some don't. Kind of gives the students a little bit of flexibility in their plans. So you can see here the earliest a student typically starts a co-op is spring semester of their sophomore year, and then they just alternate from there. So some benefits for employers for working with our students. We help companies access top engineering students for co-op and full-time positions. So we absolutely help students secure their co-ops, but we definitely help them with the full-time positions as well. So it doesn't just end when they graduate. We can assist companies in creating a strong pipeline of talent with students returning from multiple co-ops. So our goal is ideally the perfect scenario is a student gets a co-op at a company and they do so well that the company continues to ask them back for all 3 co-op rotations. They get added responsibility with every co-op rotation. And then ultimately that leads to a full-time offer where the student is already well versed with your company, trained, knows what they're doing, and it's a win-win for everybody. So that's the ideal situation. That doesn't always happen. I have plenty of students who, have done co-ops in multiple companies, which is great experience as well. As I mentioned, students begin their first co-op in or after their sophomore year. So that means they have a nice solid foundation of classes. We don't just let them, go off and get their co-op after their first semester orientation class. We have some requirements for the students as far as what courses they need to have completed before they go out on co-op. Our office, the Shah Center, hosts engineering career expos during fall and spring semesters that help students to secure their co-ops and for employers to get some face time with a wide variety of students. So, of course, you can imagine with COVID, we turned things virtual for our fall expo and actually added in a summer virtual expo. And it was really, really successful. We had a great, great event, even virtual, with employers and students having about 10-minute meetings virtually to get some quick information. We assist in getting the resumes from students and providing them to the employer. And we really just make sure that things go as smoothly as possible. We have a online software called Grad Leaders that has an employer portal, which is a great perk. And employers can set up their account and post jobs there that go out to our students. So Grad Leaders is really where we have students focus is really their first step on their co-op search when they're looking for job positions. So we can help employers post their openings, and employers can then download all the resumes that students have submitted. You can even have students go to your website to apply. There's a lot of flexibility within Grad Leaders, and it helps you to reach a vast amount of students. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there's a lot of opportunities for engagement with students. We have employer info sessions. And again, these are things that we have been able to transfer to kind of the virtual world since COVID. So we have employer info sessions where employers will just give a presentation about their company in general and maybe their co-op process, exciting projects they have going on. Employers, of course, participate in engineering career expos. We have employer student panels where we'll have employers and students who perhaps have worked for those employers as a co-op or as a full-time employee after graduation sit on a panel and answer questions for students who are maybe interested in the company, interested in the industry, and that's a great way to engage with students. We have just, again, since COVID, another way we have adapted is our office developed a course called the Academic Industry Immersion Seminar to help students who were unable to secure a co-op due to COVID or perhaps had their co-op canceled due to COVID. And we have structured this course to try to be as close to an industry experience as possible. And one of the ways we do that is we've worked with employers to provide us with case studies that we then group students together and have them work on these real life industry case studies that helps these students to get to know the company a little bit better, and the inner workings of their projects and what they've got going on without actually being there as a co-op, which is really exciting too. We have employer student mixers where we invite students to come. So if you have a certain criteria for students that you're looking for, we can filter our lists of students to meet that criteria and invite specific students to mixers. And then we're always open for creative ideas for engagement. So these are just some examples, but I think Kaylin would agree, everybody in our office loves to try new things. So We are open to any kind of engagement, but it's a great opportunity. All these engagements are a great opportunity to brand your company on campus with the University of Toledo engineering students and really get them excited about working for your company either as a co-op or post-graduation. So that was basically the overview of the Shah Center for Engineering Career Development and our co-op process. As we were talking a little bit earlier, I just put in my contact information and Kaylin's and Angie Gordon, our director as well. So does anybody have any questions or Kaylin, anything to add?
I would just say that when looking at our students and our students looking at different companies, like Jess mentioned, branding is huge for our students. So any chance that or opportunities that you have to be able to get your company name in front of our students would be very beneficial. And we have, free ways of doing that. I know that sometimes people can see our price tag for our career expo, and some companies may think, well, I only need to hire one student, so it wouldn't be financially beneficial for me. So that's where those engagements that Jess was talking about earlier that would be helpful, going into the classrooms, doing employer info sessions. If you have any company gear, because if a student's wearing a company shirt, other students are going to say, hey, where did you get that? And then it'll create conversation about it. And so then by doing that, it would just create more interest, and definitely posting your positions on grad leaders, and also being open to hiring international students as well would be beneficial, because a lot of companies think that right away international students you have to sponsor. That's not the case at all. When international students are doing their undergrad, they get 364 days of CPT where you don't need sponsorship at all, and it doesn't cost the company. So that's something to just have an idea and just keep that in the back of your mind as well.
Yep, absolutely. Great points, Kaylin, especially about the international students. I know that it is something that a lot of employers just aren't sure about, so they prefer just not to go into that territory. But yeah, it is pretty seamless the way we have it structured through the university so that it's not a concern. And then as far as the branding for companies and reaching our students, like Kaylin said, yeah, if maybe the expos aren't right for you right now, that's a perfect example of how we can work with you to say, okay, you're looking for mechanical students, so I can help you get in front of the 150 students who are in our mechanical engineering orientation class right now, and I can help you coordinate with that instructor to either go into the class when we have in-person classes again or do a virtual presentation for them. And I know from sitting in on those, students always have great questions and they're excited to hear from companies and from a wide variety of industries. So it's always fun to have employers come in and speak to
And
students.
the SBA, they specify a small business being 500 or less employees. And we always encourage our students to seek out those companies as well, because they're going to be able to have access to multiple areas of a company. They're not just going to be stuck in one division working on one single thing. So just know that we also advocate for our students to look at small business companies as well. And we're not just saying go for the Amazons or the Googles or anything like that. We advocate for all companies.
Absolutely.
I had a few questions submitted. Can you talk a little bit about wage and benefit expectations from the students?
So
Yep.
absolutely. So currently overall, the average, and this is including science and technology majors, is 1804 an hour. That's for co-op. We have a total breakdown that we can share with you, Angie, and you can provide it to all of the attendees. And with the full time, I believe it's depending on the major, around 60,000 when they graduate. Um, One thing we know that smaller companies may not be able to meet the average of $18 an hour, but additional benefits that can help are if a student gets 12 or $14 an hour, maybe that company can pick up the student's 475 co-op fee, so then they don't have to worry about that because that's their tuition for that semester. And when you look at thinking being a student, $475, that's a lot of money. I remember being a student thinking, oh my gosh, that is like, will I ever make that much money? But that's a way that can help. Also, if there's any way that you can help with housing, I know that some companies give some stipends or any relocation expenses, and it just depends on what the company is available to give. And some companies also allow the students to enroll in their retirement plans as well.
Can you clarify the difference? You mentioned a science versus a technical program.
Do you
Yep.
want to guess?
Sure. The biggest difference is, as far as I'm aware, is so the one will be a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, and one will be a Bachelor of Engineering Technology. And so the engineering science based will be the mandatory co-ops. The engineering technology, they can opt into our co-op program and they can choose to complete 3 co-ops, but it is not mandatory. So they are very much based in the classroom with technical learning and not as much industry based as far as what is required of them. And I know the different, Kaylin, you might be able to elaborate on this. I know the different programs differ, of course, because we have mechanical engineering technology, we have computer science engineering technology. So there's quite a few different programs, and they all differ they're all quite different.
Yeah, so technology is more hand, like you're actually working with your hands in the company, and then the engineering science is more you're developing, you're having that conceptual thinking where you're developing CAD programs on the computer, and you're not necessarily out on the floor 24/7. Also, the engineering science is calculus based, and then the technology is algebra based. So that makes a difference with that.
I was going to say, oftentimes too, the postings, job postings might overlap. So it's, I would say the majority of time, at least for mechanical engineering, there are plenty of positions that would be appropriate for an engineering science major and also a technology major. So they overlap a lot. But like Kaylin said, a lot of it is the foundational difference between, calculus versus algebra.
And one common thing is technology used to be a 2-year degree. It is no longer a 2-year degree. It is a 4-year bachelor's degree. It's not an associate's degree. It's a bachelor degree.
Can you give a few examples of tasks or projects that you find a lot of your co-op students do at companies? And I'm thinking for the companies out there that are thinking, yeah, I could maybe use a co-op, but I'm not sure exactly what I would have them do.
Yeah, so a lot of, again, it varies wildly across. I mean, even within the same industry, I have co-op students that are working on a big in-depth projects one-on-one with a supervisor of, I'm thinking like Thermatru is one of the companies we work with. So for example, one of the students there was working on a project to test all the doors for weatherproofing and seeing what doors would hold up under which weather circumstances. So you've got that. You've even got students who work in kind of the engineering sales part of things. So a lot for mechanical, they might be working with AutoCAD and working up drawings and designs, working with the
Yeah.
mechanics of in the automotive industry is very popular. But it really, I think one main thing to communicate is it doesn't have to look any one specific way. So our co-op students are in a wide variety of jobs in different job descriptions and duties. Go ahead, Kaylin, if you wanted to add, I didn't know.
Yeah, I would say if the more chances they get to utilize software programs, the better it is for them. So as Jess mentioned, AutoCAD, SolidWorks, for
MATLAB.
yes, MATLAB, Revit, PLCs, Java, Python, there's a whole slew of different programs that will help create the foundations for them. And the thing is too, is for the first co-op, our students know that they're going in and they're learning. So that's why we prefer students to be at, students are supposed to be at companies for at least 2 co-op rotations. But we encourage them to stay for all 3 because the longer you're at a company, the more responsibility you're going to have. So it's based off of, the company's needs. And if a company has any questions, that's where they can reach out to us and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. Does this fit for a co-op? And we're more than happy to look that over as well, because not only is it, we can look it over, but we also have our faculty members that look it over as well.
Okay, great. What would a student's perspective, what are ideal co-ops for them? Like what characteristics or what traits are they looking? So I'm thinking if companies are maybe competing for certain students with other companies, what can they do to maybe give them an edge?
I would say a major thing that students are looking for is opportunity for growth. I think it's always impressive to students when they hear, oh, you could potentially do multiple co-ops with us, and that could potentially lead to a full-time offer. Students are definitely wanting to get as much industry experience as possible, but their ultimate goal, as every new graduate, is to have a secured position after graduation. So that is a huge selling point for students. Of course, wage is one of those things, but also benefits as far as, if you can help with housing, if you can help with that co-op fee. Some of the larger companies we work with really do a lot of interaction with the co-op students and helping them, go do social activities and things out in the community. Those are kind of those extra things that entice a student.
Also, students like to feel like they're a part of the organization, not just, a temporary or just, an intern. They actually like to be involved in the process, because one of the things that our students pride themselves on is if there's a company logo or if they see something, they'll be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, do you see that? I actually worked on that. So they have a sense of pride to say, I actually was with the other engineers and I helped create that. Because what some of our co-ops do, majority of them do when they're out on co-op, they get introduced, they work on a project with other people, but then they're assigned a project that they work on themselves, and they are taking charge of that. So sense of pride, yes, wage goes into it, but they want to be included, see a actual career path within that company, and also leadership. If leadership can talk to students, then that's a huge deal, because then they're going to feel like the company cares. Because, when you get to the bigger companies, the CEO isn't going to come by every day, or, the top guns aren't going to come by every day because it's too big. But at a smaller company, that's the thing that you're going to be able to provide them.
Great. Now, one last question. Let's talk about timing. So, we at the university think in terms of semesters, and these are semester projects for the students. So the next batch of co-ops would start January. Now, if you could talk just quickly about what that means. Is it too late? Are they already placed? Is there still time? And then does the co-op have to start when the semester starts? Is there some leeway there?
There's definitely still time because there's definitely students still searching for co-ops for spring. So typically how we structure it is, so we have, like I said, we have those career expos in fall and spring. So the students who attend the fall are the students who are co-oping for spring and summer. So we're always recruiting a couple semesters ahead. And for spring, it's for those who are co-oping during summer and fall. So it's definitely not too late.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities. I'm trying to go ahead, Kaylin.
just to give you an example, I had a company reach out and it was a week into the semester and they said, do you have any students? Because we just got funding, we're able to hire somebody, and we were able to get a student and we were able to get them refunded their tuition and everything, and they were able to start. So our students know that they need to be flexible because timing, there's no perfect timing when it comes to securing a co-op. It just depends on the company and how long they need in order to process applications, how they want to get applications, because some companies you have to apply on a website per HR, but some companies through our grad leaders, they'll have a posting and the resumes will just be sent to someone's email and they can review it and call them in for, or do a in-person or virtual interview. So we've had students who get a co-op 6 months in advance, but then also we get students who get co-ops right
The week before the semester starts. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I think one thing, I know I've said it a few times, but our office is very flexible. So our goal is to get students out in industry co-ops. So whatever we can do to help facilitate that, we're not going to put a bunch of red tape in front of these students and in front of employers. We want to help facilitate that as much as possible. So we're very flexible. It's definitely not too late. I mean, the sooner the better is great. But like Kaylin said, students have definitely started co-ops after the semester has already started, and we find whatever way we can to make it work for everybody.
And I'm not sure if we said this, but during the fall and spring semesters, students need to get around 600 hours. And then during the summer, students need to co-op for at least 480 hours. So even if, and we can be somewhat flexible on that as well. So I know we had a company reach out to us in February of last year. So we told students, we'll do condensed 550 hours. So then the company was able to fit that in within a time frame. So it's not necessarily weeks, we're focused on hours too.
And many employers with COVID have moved things virtual. I know it doesn't work for every industry, but we're open to that. We are working remotely. We understand that, a lot of learning can take place in a remote environment. So we are open to that as well.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much. This was packed with information, and I'm sure our members in the family business community are going to be very appreciative of this. So just to recap, there's multiple different kinds of disciplines that you have in the College of Engineering. And then I'm sure even maybe what we think of as traditional chemical engineering, there might be other things that those types of students can do. So really, if an employer has a need for anything, regardless if they think it's traditional mechanical, chemical, civil, whatever, they should reach out to you and say, hey, this is what I have a need for. This is the kind of task that I need help with. Do you have someone that could help? And then you'll work on lining up the right student interviews, whatever the next steps are. Timing, sometime January is the next opportunity. And then after that, it would be May, I believe, would be the next opportunity. But certainly they could even work with you semesters ahead. People can even be, if they're thinking about fall, can start building those relationships now.
Absolutely.
Great. So we have your contact information, and we're going to share this video with our membership along with your contact information. And hopefully we get all these great students placed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us. We're looking forward to working with you.
All right.
Yeah,
thank
thank
you
you
for being here.
All right.